Good shot, kid. I think you got him. Good shot, kid. I think you got him.
Hello students, today we are going to begin the first chapter of history, a beginning of modern world. What does transition means? Transition means change from one state to another or from one era to another. So, in this chapter we are going to learn about the changes that took place from medieval period to the modern period in Europe and its impact on the world. The transition from the medieval period to the modern period was a gradual process and did not happen abruptly. The modern period in India began much later than in Europe. The 18th century was the period of modern transitions in India. A number of developments which were interrelated took place in period for about 14 to 17th century. They laid the foundation of the modern world. Now, we study about the sources. Sources can be divided into two categories, the primary source and the secondary source. Primary source are the evidence or the eyewitness which was present at the time. We can also see the primary sources are original document such as manuscript, letters, newspaper, reports, painting, photograph, interview, monuments, artifact, etc. Now, the secondary source, they are the evidence of someone who was not present at that time but are still helpful to understanding the history. Example, books, articles, interpretations of data, etc. The sources help us to study the change. According to the sources, the change in Europe started by the end of the medieval ages, when the feudal system of the society began to disintegrate. Renaissance means rebirth or revival. This movement represented a new spirit in ways of living and thinking of people. It marked the end of the Middle Ages and birth of the modern ages. Condition of Europe before Renaissance. We have read in chapter 1 about the spread of Christianity in Europe. It had become a religion of every country in Europe. The churches by the time become powerful and the only center of education. The education was confined to the church. The church also became conservative and authoritarian. It started propagating blind faith and superstition. It led to the spread of ignorance across Europe. Causes of Renaissance. Crusade. Crusades are religious sport. They were fought by the European Christians against the Muslim Arabs. The Arab spread scientifically advanced people their contact to them led to the spread of knowledge to Europe. It led to the growth of trade in Europe. Capture of Constantinople by the Turk. Constantinople became the famous center of the learning in Europe after the fall of the European Empire. Its library had manuscripts of Greek and Roman scholars. It is conquered by the Ottoman Center in 1453 CE. Many Greek scholars, as a result, flocked to Italy with their script with them. The scholars play a vital role in reviving classical learning in Europe. They began teaching especially in Milan and Florence. As a result, Venice, Milan, and Florence become an important center of education. Invention of printing press. The printing press of paper and printing press in middle of the 15th century further led to the spread of the Renaissance. Printing of Holy Bible and classical book led to the awakening people of Europe. Feature of Renaissance. Rationalism. The Renaissance was the age of reason. People started the questioning of the authority of the church based on the superstition belief. People starting judging things in the light of the reason. Spirit of inquiry. The spirit of inquiry means questioning, exploring, and discovering unknown knowledge. This spirit arose in people. People adopted scientific approach of life during Renaissance. They started observing, experimenting, and applying, then logically thinking. Humanism. In medieval period, religion was central to human existence. They focused work on life after death. Renaissance thinkers focused on man's life on this earth. They laid emphasis on man's needs, his emotion, etc. They shifting focus from developing toward man is called humanism. Some of the humanism were Francisco Petrarch and Giovanni Boccace were among the earliest humanist thinkers. Impact of the Renaissance. Art. The Renaissance kept art, painting, and sculpture in new outlook. The three-dimensional touch seen in art, earlier two-dimensional style was in use. The Renaissance artists study human anatomy in detail. This key idea to draw, paint, and sculpt human figure at accurate proportion. The art during this time was very lively or hot-like expression. The great artist of this time was Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo. Leonardo da Vinci was a great painter and scholar of science. His paintings show perfect proportion. His painting Mona Lisa and the Last Supper are regarded as the two masterpieces of the European art. He also designed flying machine with wings like bird and submarine. Michelangelo was a painter and sculptor and a architect. Some of his well-known work include fresco painting on the ceiling of Sistine Chapel of the Vatican, the statue of David and masses, etc. His painting The Last Judgment on the wall of Sistine Chapel is regarded was the most famous painting of the world. Architecture. Renaissance plot change in the style of architecture. The Gothic styles of the church architectures was rejected. The new style based on the study of the ancient Greek and the Roman architectures was invented. Some of the features of this new style are rounded arches, imposing domes, and tall Grecian pillar. Literature. Renaissance led to the development of modern or vernacular languages like Italian, Spanish, French, English, and German, etc. Earlier, books was only written in Latin, which was not understood by every section of society. The learning became widespread with the invention of the printing press. Latin was slowly replaced by the modern languages. The renowned writers of Renaissance period are Shakespeare, Dante, the Divine Comedy, Bacon, New Atlantic, Novan Ergonum, Martin Luther, Voltaire, Canterbury Tales, etc. Science. Renaissance has a great impact on science. The field of astronomy was enriched with new knowledge. The astronomer Copernicus found that the earth moves around the sun and not the vice versa. He proved this theory and the theory of the rotation of earth on its axis. Copernicus' theory was just the opposite of what the Roman Catholic Church taught. It led to its controversy. Galileo was a great astronomer, invented a telescope. He confirmed the theory of Copernicus by studying the movement of heavenly bodies with a telescope. Isaac Newton proved that all heavenly bodies moves according to the law of gravitation. New discovery and invention were also made in the field of medical science. Microscope and thermometer was invented in the 17th century. The circulation of blood from the heart to the other part of the body was discovered by William Harvey. Other invention. Gunpowder and Marineus compass were invented. The Marineus compass helped in the navigation of the seas. Gunpowder helped the sailor to protect themselves. This invention increased voices and expression of these now land. Discovery of new sea route. In the beginning of the chapter, we have learned that Constantinople captured by the Ottoman Dutch. Constantinople led on the overland trade route between the east and the west. The route was used by Europeans trading with Arabs, who exchanged the Asian goods to them. The loss of Constantinople made overland trade of Europeans with Asia unprofitable. The Europeans were compelled to find new sea route to Asia. Spain and Portugal sent expeditions to discover new sea route.